What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where every single week I, Graham Giuseppe Matthews, break down all the original programming that I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking Table for Three, the episode entitled Gone Viral, that featured Xavier Woods, Zack Ryder, and Woken Matt Hardy, that aired last night after Raw on the network. I really enjoyed this episode. As a big social media guy myself, I learned a lot. I'm a big fan of all three guys. And these really are three of the biggest social media pioneers in all of WWE and just in wrestling in general. Matt Hardy was really one of the first people to jump on that bandwagon back in like 2009, 2010. The guy had been posting videos for years before it became cool through WWE and other wrestlers and promotions and stuff like that. But that was really what got him released from WWE. I mean, obviously, he didn't talk about that here, but it was discussed in the WWE 24 special a few months ago. You know, the videos that he was putting up at eating grapes and all that other shit. But not only just that, obviously after Matt turned his life around soon after, he was using Twitter to kind of promote stuff that he was doing in TNA and in Ring of Honor and on the Indies and his YouTube channel and all the championships that he was winning on the independent scene while he was broken, and he was filming stuff at his house that wasn't making TV. It was all this amazing stuff. Obviously, Zack Ryder, same thing, got big on YouTube back in 2011 through Z True Long Island Story, Z True Long Island Story, I think is what it was called. Great show. I loved it. I saw every single episode. I was a big fan of it. Big fan of Ryder, even to this day. But yeah, obviously he became a big notable name through YouTube for a number of months and years soon after. And Xavier Woods a little later on, came a little late to the game, like 2014, 2015, with the Up, Up, Down, Down YouTube channel that he has. But obviously still, he's one of the biggest social media guys out there right now with YouTube and the gaming stuff that he does. But anyway, I just want to preface this review by talking about that real quick. So they start out the episode by all posting on social media of what they're doing right now. They all take pictures of their food and videos of each other and post it to Instagram and to Twitter, saying they're doing Table for Three. And I think, according to Matt Hardy's tweet, this was also filmed over WrestleMania weekend. So Matt Hardy must have done a bunch of them, because I know they recently put up one with him, Jeff, and Edge and Christian, which I'm sure was also filmed over Mania weekend. So Matt Hardy was busy over WrestleMania weekend filming Table for Three. And Zack Ryder kind of sees both sides of the coin where, you know, you want to tell people what you're up to and what you're doing on social media. It's really not the whole point of social media, obviously, but that's a big component of it. A lot of people like to tell other people what they're up to and what they're doing every single second of the fucking day. And some people are like, why would I tell people what I'm doing if I want to be here to enjoy it? But Ryder sees both sides of it, because he will go to Disney World, go to Disneyland and whatever the hell, and, you know, take pictures and videos of himself at the park with his girlfriend, Chelsea Green. But he also is there to enjoy it too, so he's not doing it 24/7. Matt Hardy talked about his wife, Rebby Hardy's social media use very briefly, how, you know, people are very... I don't know what the right word for it would be, but they're not always the smartest with social media. I mean, hey, I speak from experience, but I think everyone has some sort of story where they posted something on social media that they feel like they shouldn't have, or they regretted it afterwards, or whatever. Rebby Hardy still does that to this day, especially when the whole Broken War was going on over the usage of the broken characters in the broken universe. She was posting a lot of shit on Twitter that probably would have gotten her in trouble anywhere else, but she wasn't employed by TNA or WWE. I mean, she's not employed now, but like her husband was not in TNA or WWE at that point. She still says stuff on occasion on Twitter, even though Matt's currently in WWE, but she's got to tone it down a little bit, and hopefully Matt Hardy can keep her in check. So Matt says the process of him logging into Twitter basically involves him first, A, going to his mentions, B, checking what's trending, and then C, looking at the timeline. And I feel like I can relate to that. I'm not always looking at what's trending. I mean, if I'm really, really bored, I'll look at my timeline first. Usually, I agree, I'll go to my notifications first, and then go to the timeline. I actually look at my timeline now more than I ever have before, which is interesting. But anyway, Xavier Woods talks about having never gone on his timeline. He never really cares what his friends are doing. He only really cares what he's doing. He never looks at his friends' stuff, he said. And then Xavier Woods brings up like the whole Woken, broken stuff. And again, TNA, free reign. I feel like I've heard the initials TNA mentioned on every episode of Table for Three for the last like 5 or 6 episodes. Obviously, with the exception of the last one, with Natalia, Nia Jax, and Beth Phoenix. But this one, I mean, and this one obviously with Matt Hardy being from TNA, but with this one, so Matt Hardy talks about the process of getting the broken stuff because Xavier asked about it. They were big fans of it. I was not disappointed, but I was slightly surprised that Woods didn't bring up the fact that, you know, when they filmed one of those Final Deletion things, I think it was the first Final Deletion episode they had done, the first Final Deletion match. WWE then copied that on their own show by doing something similar with New Day and the Wyatt family. I was hoping they would talk about that here, and how Woods maybe didn't want to do it because he felt like they were ripping it off because he saw the original in Japan, he said. Jericho showed it to him because Matt Hardy sent it to Jericho. They didn't talk about that here, but Matt Hardy talked about the whole process, how he now owns everything broken after winning the war for the broken persona late last year. He talked about filming stuff at his house to supplement it with the stuff on YouTube and on TV. Whatever wasn't airing on TV, then he would then put on YouTube, and he's kind of done something similar in WWE in recent months. A tweet from his TNA days are shown of him hyping up Final Deletion, showing about like, oh, watch Impact on Pop this Thursday. I'm not feeling well because I took all these bumps on the show, like all this other tongue-in-cheek kayfabe shit. But they show the tweet from his TNA days that specifically mentions Impact on Pop. So again, something you would never, ever, ever, ever have seen years ago. But now it's almost encouraged to talk about TNA on these Table for 3 shows. It's like TNA for 3 is what this show should be called. I'm not complaining. I fucking love it. I just find it funny. So anyway, like I said, Hardy sent the Final Deletion video to Jericho, and then Jericho sent it to Woods. He watched it when they were in Japan. He specifically mentioned the lawnmower part, which is what he loved about it. When he's like on Jeff Hardy's lawn, and Matt Hardy's on the lawnmower, like, oh yeah, he's like doing the whole laughing thing. He looks like he's drunk off his ass. Xavier Woods said that he loved that part about it. And he saw that people were making GIFs. And that, the people are taking the GIFs and using with other things, and then people are like, oh, what's this? And they're intrigued, and they'll kind of backtrack and check out Final Deletion. They use all the broken GIFs, and people use the broken GIFs with each other and kind of use it as a creative outlet, Matt Hardy said, and it was really cool, the whole broken woken thing. I will mention this, though, which I thought was really interesting, and I mean, this could be honestly nothing. This is only selfishly speaking here, that I only found this interesting for personal reasons. Just because it involved me, I think. But Matt Hardy had said at one point in this episode, right around when they're talking about the, how the broken woken stuff, specifically the Final Deletion stuff and all the gifts like the wonderful, delightful, all that other shit, became really big with even non-wrestling fans. And Matt Hardy even specifically said, he goes, oh yeah, I've seen some people like send it to their girlfriend and stuff like that, and all the woken stuff, which I had done with my now ex-girlfriend about like a year ago. And I know that Matt Hardy saw it because he liked the tweet and he replied to the tweet and said how wonderful it was for the broken woken stuff to be incorporated into pop culture. So, and he specifically mentioned that here. Obviously, the tweet wasn't shown, but I mean, maybe it's happened with other people. I just know that just because it involved me, and he replied to the tweet and he like quote tweeted it, so it kind of like blew up. But yeah, it was fucking crazy. I mean, I don't know if he was talking about that. Matt Hardy does follow me, so I don't know. I mean, again, that could be a whole lot of nothing, but I just found it funny. Anyway, so they talk about Edge and Christian, even though they can't wrestle anymore. They also enjoy being creative with their new Edge and Christian show. I mean, season 1 was like 2 years ago, but they were on doing season 2 for the last couple of months, and hopefully that makes the air soon. So then they transition to Zack Ryder, who admits to missing the YouTube channel process, like editing the videos and filming it, coming up with content. He misses the whole thing, and Woods flat out asks him, he goes, would you ever go back to doing YouTube stuff? And he's like, I don't know. Then it kind of runs down what it was happening with the YouTube channel, how it really came about. So he wasn't doing much on WWE TV in 2011, so that's why he started the YouTube channel. He was either going to get noticed or get fired, and he figured it was all or nothing. So he filmed all the shows himself with his flip camera, and he couldn't really, he could edit, but he didn't really know how. So he took his entire days off. Like any off days that he had, it would take the entire day to like film the show, edit the show, and then put it up. Because he really didn't really know, wasn't really aware of what he was doing. He didn't really know what he was doing, wasn't really an expert in that area when it came to editing videos and shit. But it did, take time, and eventually, it obviously paid off, and people paid attention. I remember when the show blew up, and people were like starting to pay more attention to Zack Ryder, because that was also around the time that I already had a Twitter by that point, but that was also around the time that I started using it more and started using Twitter more, and people started to bring up Zack Ryder, and I already followed him to begin with. So anyway, he brings up the Internet Championship, which he created for himself on the show. It was basically a title belt that started out as like a toy title, like an Intercontinental Championship with like a YouTube logo on it. But he eventually made his own fucking championship belt that had the Internet Championship printed on it. And he wanted to wear it on TV, a story that he's never shared before. This I thought was very interesting, being a big fan of his show. So he said that he wanted to wear the championship on TV, but he was told by someone who would not be named that he was too much of a mark for himself. That don't be a mark for yourself by bringing this championship on TV. I feel like it's got to be Triple H or Mark Carrano, some fucking clown bag like that. I might be wrong, but it had to have been Triple H. The same fucking guy who invited Zack Ryder out after Raw went off the air, like when they did that whole fucking Raw on Occupy Raw bullshit when people like walked out on Triple H and he was like the only sole hero standing up for Raw and all that other fucking shit. And after Raw went off the air, Zack Ryder came out, who was a babyface by that point, came out to get a rub with Triple H, film it for his YouTube channel. Triple H then fucking proceeds to bury Zack Ryder by pedigreeing him in the middle of the ring, and then mocking him by doing the whole woo-woo-woo shit. So it had to have been Triple H who called Zack Ryder a mark for himself. I can almost guarantee it. But he said despite that, the championship was used in his metal action figures and fucking video games, so it still got over, maybe just not on WWE TV. And also in doing the show, he incorporated fan stuff like Sign of the Week and Broski of the Week that got people to watch the show and caused the show to spread via word of mouth. So anyway, he learned about it more as it went along and kind of grew to enjoy the process and kind of learned more about becoming a YouTuber. The more the show progressed and the further the show went along. And the longer the show lasted. And he also talked about being one of the first wrestlers on Twitter. Not like the very first wrestler on Twitter, but, Ryder had a Twitter dating back to like 2009, maybe before that. I mean, I know it says on his profile when he created the Twitter. But I remember when I created mine in like June or July of 2009, Ryder was one of the very first people that I followed on Twitter. And it was so cool, and, he wasn't really posting much of note at that point. But yeah, Ryder definitely was one of those first people to kind of get himself over via Twitter. They talk about Maxwell wrestling in TNA, or Ryder brings up the fact that his dad got over on his show, and that people still recognize Zack Ryder's dad to this day. He was a great character on the show, by the way. And then Matt's like obviously jokingly saying, like, how dare you get your own family over on the show? Because obviously he did the same thing in TNA, and now in WWE with the Hardy Compound and Senor Benjamin and Queen Rebecca and King Maxwell and everyone else. But they talk about Maxwell wrestling in TNA and wrestling fucking half the roster and wrestling Rockstar Spud, who is now the GM of 205 Live. They bring up the Matt facts and how it was WWE's idea to use the player entrance. Like it was, when he came out for his entrance, they were showing the player that right next to it had the Matt facts on it. That was WWE's idea. Then he incorporated the Matt facts, and he was very picky with it. There was one Matt fact that said, "Did you read Matt Hardy's book?" And although it featured Matt in it, it didn't start off with Matt, so Matt Hardy was really upset about that. And then he found out it was Kevin Dunn's idea, and he was like, "Oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't be too upset about it," because obviously he's one of the head honchos. And then Zack Ryder, they talked about, the company kind of being picky with stuff, so they transitioned. And Ryder, like, why did you stop doing your show? So going back to Zack Ryder, he talks about how Ryder refused to move Z, True Long Island Story, to WWE.com. Because they were like, oh, this is getting big, this is getting popular, move with the .com. And he's like, no, that's not the cool thing to do. YouTube is what's in nowadays. People are watching YouTube. I'm going to keep it on YouTube. So eventually, when the WWE started their own YouTube channel in 2012, he was pretty much forced to bring it to their YouTube channel. They already had a channel well before that, but that was when they started like doing more shows. Like Santino Marella had a show. They had a show called Are You Serious, which was actually kind of great with Road Dogg and Josh Matthews. Those episodes were awesome. So Ryder was forced to bring over the show. It was kind of an ultimatum, otherwise, like, he'd be fired. Like, if you don't bring it over, you can't do the show anymore. Like, if you don't bring it over to our channel, you can't do the show, period. So he's like, fine, fuck it, whatever. So anyway, it became a job after a certain point. Like, he had to produce an episode on time every fucking week. And by the time that he started doing, like, by the time that he brought it over to the YouTube channel, he had already been doing the show for a year. Now he had to do it for another year. I don't know if he signed a contract or something, but he did have to do the show for at least 1 year. And by that point, he had run out of content. He ran out of jokes to make, because especially since it was now on the WWE YouTube channel, and he couldn't make jokes about not being on TV and shit like that, you know? So he couldn't make jokes about not being on TV and taking shots of the company because it was now on their own YouTube. It was on their fucking own YouTube channel. So then there was one point, he shared a story here, how WWE refused to air an entire episode of the show one week because it featured apparently like Trent Beretta and John Cena like puking at like, not the Performance Center, but like one of those, the Hard Knocks workout place where John Cena goes like all the time. Because like Tyler Breeze was on the show even well before he became Tyler Breeze. But they did an episode about that and Cena was like puking. And they showed footage of the episode that never made the air here. Footage that has never been seen before. So it was kind of cool that we got to see that here. So then WWE said, we're not airing this. Come up with another episode and we'll have it up today. Ryder's like, I can't pull another episode right out of my fucking ass. Like, it's going to take time to pull up another episode. Like, to create another episode, I can't do that. I just can't pull up an episode for whatever reason, just because you didn't air my original one, like, that's on you. So he filmed another episode saying that, oh, my original episode today was going to be sick, but now WWE doesn't want to air it. Here's the episode. There's no episode today, so... So what he did, he's like, they refused to air the episode, so here's my episode today. See you guys next week. He walked off set and like showed the set for like 2.5 minutes, and that was the episode. And it never obviously made the air. They said, we're not airing this shit either. They just took the week off. But I saw that, I thought that was so fucking funny, because we've heard stuff about this. I know writers talked about episodes and not making the air, but we've never seen the footage before until now. So I thought that was really, really funny. And they just took the week off and they picked up where they left off the next week. But it was evident by that point that Ryder was not enjoying the process of doing the show and that the show was on its last legs. Meanwhile, Xavier Woods, a few years ago, wanted to do a show on the network where he'd go to barcades. Like, he'd go to arcades or go to bars and play arcade games. That was basically the show. And WWE essentially said, no, that's stupid. We're not doing it. Which is like, okay, fuck you, whatever. I'm sure he didn't say fuck you, but he was like, fine, I'll do my own YouTube channel. So he had to work with the company for over a year. He said it took a year for him to get freedom to do his own YouTube channel because they wanted full control of it. But he's like, I don't really want your say. I want to do it under the WWE umbrella, but I don't want you guys to control it or to have it on your network or your YouTube channel. It's got to be mine own. It's got to be my own thing. So finally, he was given the freedom to do his own channel. It launched in June of 2015, and he says that the channel has always been his vision. He always wants it to be his vision and not come under the control of anyone else but himself. And now fast forward over 3 years, the channel now has well over 1 million subscribers. And they had just done the E3 convention, Comic-Con, whatever the fuck it is, a couple months ago. And Kenny Omega was on it with the Elite. Like, you would have never seen that years ago, and that's the thing that led up to this point. That all the success that the channel has had has led to him doing all cool stuff like that. So he also said, I don't want WWE involved at all, a part of the process. Like, you weren't there when we started, I'm not going to have you here now. Like, that makes no sense. And he also talked about having the Up, Up, Down, Down channel has helped a lot with New Day and their on-air stuff, their TV programming and storylines, because he'll see signs for the channel and see more signs like, oh, this guy hates that guy, this guy fears that guy, because they have like a feud on the show, not on Raw or SmackDown, but rather on the YouTube channel. So there's a lot of cross-promotion there, and it works out really, really well. They talk about the close of the episode, blocking people and whether they block people in stories they share. Zack Ryder shared some sort of story. I didn't exactly get what he was talking about, but he said that he had heat with action figure collectors because he wasn't like a legitimate action figure collector. He would buy it from other people. People eventually caught on to it or something like that. But yeah, he posts a lot on Twitter about collecting wrestling action figures. Meanwhile, Matt, again, another instance where they mentioned TNA, which again, I will never not get used to it. But Matt talked about getting under fans' skins as a heel when he was in TNA as he even specifically said here, as Big Money Matt. It was before he became broken. He was the heel with like Rebby coming out, and she kind of like manipulated him, and he was a giant asshole. He did the same exact gimmick in Ring of Honor too. He brought it to TNA, and he shit all over the fans, not only on TV, but he was doing it on Twitter as well. He was doing it on the online world, and people took notice. And they showed tweets from his time in TNA. They aired them here on the show, which was again really funny to say. So they talked about blocking people. Ryder says that he doesn't block people, and that if he does, they must have done something really, really bad. So Xavier shares this story about some guy over WrestleMania weekend that like followed him, and he's like, "Oh, I missed you here, here, and here. And I just caught up with you because I wanted to tell you, why did you block me? Like, I don't get it." And Woods is like, "I definitely blocked you for a reason, so I'm not going to unblock you. I know we're having a pleasant conversation right now, but I definitely blocked you for a reason 3 years ago. I'm not going to take that back, so deal with it." And they're talking about how, like, people will say, "Hey, can you unblock, can you tell, like, John Cena to unblock me for him, please? To unblock me for myself, I guess, or whatever. Can you please tell John Cena to unblock me?" Is basically what people are asking, like Zack Ryder, and he's like, "No, and you probably did something to get blocked, so I'll block you too." Like, I thought that was hilarious, because everyone can relate to that with the Twitter world. Anyway, so Ryder talked about how he thought Twitter was stupid at first, and they also talk about how anyone can go online and interact with their favorites, but it also gives people, a platform to shit on people and spread hate, and there's a million trolls out there, but I think that shit is worth it, if only for the good stuff. Twitter has done me a world of good with meeting a lot of great people, talking to a lot of great wrestlers. Like I said, Matt Hardy has followed me on Twitter now for 6 years. That's a long fucking time. And I would not have that interaction, I would not have that relationship with him that I do if it wasn't for Twitter. And speaking of Matt Hardy, he closes out the episode by saying, "The best thing about social media is that it gives everyone a voice. The worst thing about social media is that it gives everyone a voice." And he could not be any more on point with that quote. And I thought that was a great way to cap off such an entertaining and excellent edition of Table for Three. So again, it's called Gone Viral on the network under the original section, Table for Three, with Xavier Woods, Zack Ryder, and Matt Hardy. Awesome stuff here. Definitely check it out on the network at your leisure. So it is SummerSlam week, guys. I'm going to see if I can record a pay-per-view card rundown for the pay-per-views. And by pay-per-views, I mean SummerSlam and also TakeOver Brooklyn 4. I may not have the time this week. We'll see. If so, they should be up this weekend. But otherwise, guys, enjoy SummerSlam week. We will have a new episode of WWE Network and Chill up on Friday, reviewing the latest episode of Ms. and Mrs. Till then, guys, I'm Graham Juice Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.